The ravine cut through the land like an old scar that never healed. Wind slid down its jagged walls and carried the smell of dust, sage, and something fouler, fear, maybe, or blood waiting to be spilled. Above it stretched the plains, endless and pale, broken only by mesquite and the far silhouettes of cattle drifting like smoke. The sun sat low, staining the sky copper and red, and in that dying light a woman ran. Her boots slipped on loose shale as she half fell, half slid into the ravine, breath tearing from her lungs in ragged pulls. Her dress was ripped at the hem, darkened with sweat and dirt, and one sleeve hung loose where a hand had grabbed and missed. She didn't look back at first. She knew what was behind her. She had heard them laughing when she bolted from the trail. 7 voices, all sharp with hunger and cruelty, chasing her like hounds after a wounded deer. By the time she reached the bottom, her legs were shaking so badly, she had to brace herself against the rock wall to stay upright. The ravine narrowed here, walls closing in, the ground uneven and treacherous. It was a dead end, and she knew it the moment she saw the rock fall ahead, blocking any further escape. Her heart sank so hard it felt like it might split her chest open. She turned then slowly, the way a person does when there is no more running left. They appeared at the rim above her one by one, silhouettes against the sky. Hats tilted low, rifles slung or held loose in their hands. One spat into the ravine and laughed. Another tipped his hat in mock courtesy. They took their time climbing down, boots crunching on stone, spreading out as they descended, so there would be no slipping past them. She backed up until the rock pressed cold into her spine. Her fingers curled into fists, nails biting into her palms. Her name was Clara Hayes, and she had never believed the world was fair. But she had believed, stupidly, maybe, that there were lines men didn't cross. Watching their eyes rake over her now, she understood how wrong she'd been. "Nowhere left to go, miss," one of them called. He was tall and raw-boned, with a scar that pulled his mouth crooked. "I should have stayed on the road." "I won't beg," Clara said, surprised at how steady her voice sounded. Fear coiled in her gut, but something harder rose with it. Anger, defiance. "You'll have to kill me." That only made them laugh harder. Up on the plains, miles away but closing fast, a lone rider leaned forward in his saddle. The horse was a bay gelding, dust-caked and lathered, but still strong. Its rider moved with it as if they shared the same bones. He wore a dark coat faded by sun and rain, a hat pulled low, and a revolver worn smooth from years of use. His name was Eli Mercer, and he had sworn he was done with other people's troubles. The wind carried sound across the open land if you knew how to listen. Eli reined in, slightly, eyes narrowing. At first it was nothing, just the plains breathing. Then he heard it. Laughter, sharp, ugly, carrying too much edge to be harmless. He turned his horse toward the sound without thinking, jaw tightening. Every instinct told him to keep riding. He'd buried enough men already. He'd left enough crosses behind him in shallow graves to last a lifetime. But there were things you couldn't unhear once they found you. As he crested a low rise, the ravine came into view. Dust hung in the air like smoke. He could see figures moving along the edge, rifles glinting in the sun. And at the bottom, just a glimpse of pale fabric against stone. "Damn it!" Eli muttered. Below, the outlaws had finished spreading out. 7 of them, just as the title would someday say, though none of them knew it yet. One stepped closer to Clara, reaching for her arm. "Don't," she said. He grinned and kept coming. The sound of a gunshot cracked across the ravine like thunder splitting rock. The bullet punched into stone inches from the man's hand, spraying chips into his face. He recoiled with a curse. Silence fell hard and sudden, broken only by the echo rolling off the ravine walls. Eli Mercer rode down into the ravine at a controlled lope. Revolver raised, eyes cold and steady. Dust billowed around his horse's legs. He didn't shout. He didn't threaten. He simply rode straight at them like a man who had already made his peace with what came next. "That's far enough," he said. The outlaws stared at him, then at each other. One of them laughed, uncertain this time. "Who the hell are you?" the scarred man asked. "Doesn't matter," Eli replied. His gaze flicked to Clara for half a heartbeat, long enough to see the terror there. And something else too, resolve. You're done here. 7 guns slowly came up. You're one man, another outlaw said. Ain't good odds. Eli's mouth twitched, not quite a smile. I've had worse. The ravine felt smaller now, the air thick with tension. Clara watched him, disbelief warring with a fragile, dangerous hope. He stood between her and them without asking her name, without promising anything. Just a man and his gun and a line he refused to let them cross. The scarred outlaw spat. Kill him. Time stretched thin as wire. Eli's finger tightened on the trigger, the world narrowing to breath. And sight and the memory of every mistake that had led him here. And then everything exploded into motion. The first shot split the ravine wide open. Eli Mercer fired before the echo of the scarred man's order had time to die. His revolver bucked once, twice, the report sharp and final. One outlaw went down hard, spinning sideways as if yanked by an invisible rope, his rifle clattering uselessly against stone. Another screamed as the bullet tore through his shoulder. The sound high and panicked, not the noise of a man ready to die. Then the ravine erupted. Gunfire cracked from every direction. Stone shattered. Dust leapt into the air in choking clouds. Eli wheeled his horse sideways, using the animal's bulk and the uneven ground as cover, firing with calm precision while chaos tore around him. He didn't waste shots. He never had. Every pull of the trigger was a decision, weighed and accepted. Clara dropped to the ground the instant the shooting started, curling against the rock wall, arms over her head. Pebbles rained down. Bullets screamed past, so close she felt the heat of them. She pressed her face into her sleeve and tried not to sob, tried not to pray, because both felt like invitations for disappointment. One of the outlaws charged, roaring, firing wildly. Eli leaned out of the saddle and put him down with a single shot to the chest. The man fell at Clara's feet, eyes wide and empty, dust settling on his face. She flinched, breath catching in her throat. Death was no longer a distant idea. It was right there, close enough to touch. "Stay down," Eli shouted without looking back. His voice cut through the noise, steady and sharp. Another outlaw scrambled up the ravine wall, trying to gain higher ground. Eli tracked him, fired. The man pitched backward, arms flailing, disappearing from view with a sickening thud. But 7 was a lot of men, even for someone like Eli Mercer. A bullet tore through his coat, burning hot across his ribs. He hissed, pain flaring bright and immediate, but he stayed in the saddle. His horse screamed as a round grazed its flank, the sound raw and terrified. Eli slapped its neck, murmuring low, steadying both of them even as his own blood began to soak into his shirt. The scarred outlaw barked orders now, fear sharpening his voice. 2 men flanked left, firing in controlled bursts. Another reloaded behind a boulder, hands shaking. Eli backed his horse deeper into the ravine, forcing them to funnel toward him. He knew this ground instinctively, the angles, the shadows, the way sound carried. He had survived worse places than this, places where screams echoed for days afterward. A shot rang out, and Eli's revolver clicked empty. For half a second the world seemed to hold its breath. The outlaws surged forward, sensing it. Eli kicked his horse forward hard, charging straight at them. He drew his second revolver mid-gallop, the motion fluid, practiced deadly. The sudden aggression broke their nerve. One man stumbled. Another fired too high. Eli shot them both. When the smoke thinned, 3 outlaws lay dead. 2 were wounded and crawling, leaving dark streaks on the stone. The remaining 2, the scarred leader and a younger man with terrified eyes, stood frozen, guns half raised, unsure whether to run or fight. "Drop them," Eli said. His voice was rougher now, breath tight with pain, but the authority in it hadn't faded. The younger man hesitated, then let his rifle fall. It clattered down the ravine wall and landed near Clara. She stared at it, then up at Eli, something breaking loose in her chest. The scarred outlaw sneered. "You think this ends here, cowboy?" Eli didn't answer. He fired. The man's hat flew off as the bullet clipped his head. He staggered back, stunned but alive, blood streaming down his face. Panic finally won. He turned and ran, scrambling up the ravine wall with desperate strength, vanishing over the edge. Silence fell again, heavier this time. Eli lowered his gun slowly, chest heaving. He swayed in the saddle, vision blurring at the edges. Blood soaked his side, warm and slick. He holstered the revolver with effort and slid down from the horse, boots hitting the ground harder than he meant. Clara pushed herself upright, hands shaking. She looked at the bodies, at the wounded men moaning softly, at the stranger who had ridden into hell for her. "You're hurt," she said. "So are they," Eli replied. "Difference is they earned it." He sank against the rock wall, grimacing. Up close, Clara could see the lines in his face, old grief etched deep, eyes carrying more weight than one lifetime should hold. "You could have ridden past," she said quietly. "You didn't." Eli met her gaze then, really looked at her. Dust-streaked, terrified, furious at the world for putting her here, something twisted in his chest that had nothing to do with the bullet.
"Someone once didn't," he said.
"I don't plan on being that man again." They sat there in the ravine as the sun dipped lower, shadows stretching long and cold. The wounded outlaws eventually fell silent, whether from pain or something final Clara didn't want to think about. Far above, the plains waited, indifferent as ever. "You have somewhere to go?" Eli asked at last. Clara nodded. "A ranch. North of here, if they don't come back." "They will," Eli said. "Men like that don't forget being humiliated. A beat passed." "Then I reckon," Clara said softly, "I could use some help." Eli closed his eyes briefly, feeling the familiar weight of choice settle on him. Ride on or stay and fight another war that wasn't his. He opened his eyes. "All right," he said. "Let's get you home." If this chapter kept you holding your breath, don't forget to like the video, leave a comment with your favorite moment, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what comes next.